Hey guys, it's me. I'm back for my second video, and I wanted to talk about my Christian bands that I played with, and I wanted to kind of let you know how that all evolved. So stay tuned. So I just got done watching the Super Bowl, and I'm so happy that the Kansas City Royals beat the Philadelphia Phillies. I think I want to talk about the Christian bands that I've played in. Been a Christian my whole life, but I've had my ups and downs. I've always felt led to play music. It's been an undying love for me to play music for the Lord. I think the first recollection I have that really put that bug in me to play music for the Lord was my girlfriend's brother played the drums for a band called Glory Bound, and they were playing down in San Pedro, and oh my gosh, it was incredible. I think maybe I was 16 or 17, and I knew that I wanted to play Christian hard rock. The next event that happened to me as far as the Christian hard rock bug was my sister met a guy who was a Christian who played drums for a band called White Throne, and they were heavy metal. They were like Iron Maiden, and it was amazing. And this was 81, and I remember they had a t-shirt that says White Throne Heavy Metal Ministers, and I went to all their shows, all their gigs, and they opened up for Daniel Amos and some other people along the way, but I was just like blown away by this band called White Throne, who my sister's boyfriend was playing the drums for, and they eventually got married a couple years later. That was huge, made a huge impact on me. Then the third instance was Stryper. First time seeing them though, they blew me away. They were absolutely incredible. I was full on bitten, but I saw them at Citrus College. That was in April of 84, and they looked more beautiful than their girlfriends. I played the guitar, and from that point on, I wanted to put a Christian metal band together. We lived in a great spot. We had a lot of bands that would come through. They were all metal, and it was great to just meet everybody. In fact, my brother dated Rachel, the sister of Ricky Rocket from Poison. That time was just so cool to be here in LA with the LA metal thing happening. So I always worked on putting the band together. My brother-in-law, the drummer from White Throne, in 85 and 86, we would jam together all the time, and I'd be writing songs. And my cousin played the bass, David Massey, who was a great bassist. We worked on putting together a Christian metal band. So we had me on the guitar, my brother-in-law on drums, and David, my cousin, on bass. I wrote several songs. We had a great time. I put an ad in the Recycler, the famous Recycler, for a singer slash guitarist, and got a call from the most noteworthy one was we auditioned Larry Worley. I love that guy, and I saw him at Stryper concerts. He was a fantastic singer, a fantastic songwriter, and we worked on some stuff. My brother-in-law, the drummer, Matt, had built a little studio out at his place in Fontana, so we would jam out there. But then it didn't work out with Larry, and I can understand why, my cousin then went and joined a band, just an incredible band named Surrender. They got extremely popular in the LA area, and they just had gifted musicians, Jamie Wallum on drums, Mike Alton on vocals, Charlie on guitar, forgot his last name. Before they called themselves Surrender, I had suggested that they called themselves Charlie's Angels. We had a good time, all of us together at shows. I was a roadie for them. My friend that got hired on at my work, Darren Eby, was a roadie for them too. We were always helping them out all the time. Darren and I started talking about getting a band together, and this was October of '87. We started writing songs. I put an ad in the famous Recycler for a drummer. We got one bite, and that bite was Gary Hansen. So we started rehearsing. We had, I think, 4 songs before we decided to try out singers. So I placed an ad in Recycler for a vocalist, and we got a couple bites. One guy named Todd auditioned for us, and I'll never forget him. He came up with some pretty awesome lyrics to one of our songs, and he later formed a band called Torment Max. The next guy that auditioned was Larry Worley, and I knew right away that was our vocalist. I have already experienced his gift. So we started writing songs together, and we came up with several songs, and we played at my church in Baldwin Park, and I have a VHS tape of that and some photos. We played a show at the Green Door, and we called ourselves Reaction. And I believe I still have the ticket stub from the Green Door that says Reaction on it. I got a ton of stuff that I saved over the years. We have a lot of photos from that show. My cousin's band, Surrender, played a show at the Roxy with Guardian and Shout. Killer show. Surrender and Shout and Guardian. You can't go wrong. And this was 88, maybe around the beginning of summer. And I had gotten married. The church that we attended was her sister's church in Baldwin Park. And I felt pressured to leave Reaction. That left Darren Eby, Larry Worley, and Gary Hansen, and they went on to replace me with Rod Romero, a great bassist. And they changed their name to Love Life, and they came out with an album called Goodbye Lady Jane. And I was really happy for the guys. I went and saw them at a couple different places. Super happy for the guys. In '91, my wife and I went to her cousin's house, as her cousin was having a birthday party. But her cousin is Roger Rose. He was having a birthday party at his parents' house. So of course I was excited to go see them. We had hung out quite a few times because, like I said, my wife's cousins are Roger and Randy Rose. So my wife and I are at Roger's birthday. We were having a great time. Randy was wrapping up his first solo album called Sacrificium. And so I jammed with him and Jason Martin on the drums from Dance House Children and, of course, Starflyer 59. Randy asked me to be the bass player for Rose. We talked about adding another guitarist. So I put an ad in the Recycler for a guitarist. We auditioned some guitarists, but Steve Kamada won our hearts. Mr. K wound up being our lead/rhythm guitarist. So we rehearsed. Jason Martin on drums, Steve Kamada on guitar, and Randy on vocals. And we rehearsed, and we did a show at my church in Baldwin Park with Dance House Children. Then we played a show at the Brin Center in Irvine. It was a Christian festival. It was the who's who of Christian rock and metal. Saw a ton of my favorite bands there. I was a fan of every single band. Finally got a chance to play a show with all these big bands. Jason Martin wound up only playing 2 shows with us, and we auditioned for another drummer, and we started auditioning drummers. We picked Don Richard, great guy, fantastic drummer. So it was me on bass, Steve Kamada on guitar, Randy on vocals, Don on drums. So we all went to this Mad at the World show at the Packing House. It might have been March of '92. So I'm sitting there watching Mad at the World. Randy's up there playing drums and doing vocals. Roger's up there singing. The full band is out up there, and I'm loving it because I'm playing with that guy on the drums in his new band. And Randy just happened to mention he's looking for another guitarist, and at that show, Ben Jacobs was there. He became our lead / rhythm guitarist along with Steve Kamada. Ben's an exceptional talent, gifted in every way. So we started recording Healing. We had a bunch of demos. We had like 20 songs ready to go. That album was incredible. It got great reviews. And so we did some shows. Frontline Records wanted us to be a part of the Live Intent series recordings. So that was our 3rd album. We got to work with Terry Taylor and Gene Eugene. Complete icons, legends. That was near the end of '92. And by that time, Roger had asked Ben and I to be a part of Mad at the World. So we got to do a show in December of '92 at the Packing House. That was a lot of fun. There's a lot of videos out there of that show. So we're heading into '93, what we were calling the Black Album. And this was some of our heaviest material ever. I thought Healing was a masterpiece, but Into the Unknown, that's a whole other level of heavy. So we recorded it early summer of '93. We turned it into Frontline. Michael Black from Frontline told Randy that the album was too heavy, too dark. So we had a full album sitting on a reel of 2-inch tape with nowhere to go. So they wanted us to do something a little lighter, not as heavy. So we started recording what I thought was amazing. It sounded to me like the Smashing Pumpkins' Siamese Dream album, which had just came out. And our style was right along with it. Incredible songs. Sonically amazing and very dynamic, which was very much in at that time. So we had already recorded about 5 songs for that album. Me and the guys show up at the studio ready to continue to record. Randy wanted us to sit down. He picked up an acoustic guitar and he started playing some of the stuff that we had already recorded. And he said he felt led to totally change the album. So we wound up recording 10 or 11 songs, and we called the album Crazy Little World. And what was pretty incredible is that we got to finish the album at Capitol Records in Hollywood. The guy who wound up mastering it, we got to hang out with, and his name is Wally Traugart, who worked with Paul McCartney, Diana Ross, Julio Iglesias, Barbra Streisand. So that's how light we were going, but we were working with this legend at Capitol Records. And he did some really awesome stuff with the album. That album, it had to grow on me. We were going through a lot of stuff on that album. There was a couple suicides in the family, and Lisa and Randy were getting married. So there was a lot of emotion on that album. My wife was devastated by her dad taking his life. So it was very tough. We got through it, and it's on the album. Songs like Cold Blue Hill, some of the songs really hit pretty deep. That album came out and it got hit with some pretty bad reviews because they were so used to us being such a heavy band. But I wound up being very proud of that album. It's very unusual, and it's definitely a timestamp for what a lot of us were going through. That album came out January of '94, and that was the last Rose album recorded. Of course, Rose released another album after Crazy Little World, but it was the Black Album, the one that Frontline said was too heavy. So REX Records put that album out, and we called it Into the Unknown, which is my favorite album as far as heaviness goes. There's some pretty wicked stuff going on that album. So we originally recorded that in the summer of '93, and Into the Unknown didn't come out until summer of '95. So that was it as far as Rose goes. Of course, we were all in Mad at the World too, Ben and I, and of course Roger and Randy. And we had recorded the Ferris Wheel in spring of '93, and Mad at the World had been known to have a variety of flavors on their albums, from Depeche Mode on the first album to The Doors and The Cult, their next few albums. And then it got to when Ben and I joined the band, Roger and Randy were very much into Jellyfish and the Spilt Milk album, which is an incredible album. We got a lot of our influence from that, and we recorded the Ferris Wheel. We did a video for Frontline Records called Eyes of Heaven. Late spring of '94, after Rose had released Crazy Little World on Frontline Records, Mad at the World started recording Dreamland Cafe, which wound up being their last album also. So a lot of changes were going on. The Frontline Music Group were going bankrupt. We couldn't re-sign as Rose. And then the label's biggest band, Mad at the World, they couldn't sign us. And they went out of business, unfortunately. Getting back to Dreamland Cafe. Dreamland Cafe is my favorite Mad at the World album. Seasons of Love is right there with it though. There was something really special about Dreamland Cafe. I was going through a divorce, which was very tough. On some of the tracks that I play, I'm actually playing with tears in my eyes. And that was pretty tough. I loved what I did on that album as far as the bass playing goes. We wound up doing a few gigs for Dreamland Cafe, and like I said, Frontline Music Group was going out of business, filing bankruptcy. So the advertising for that album and the promotion, it hit a wall. They did put some ads in some magazines, and then that was it. Randy and I did continue to record some newer songs, but under the banner of Mood Ring. And one of the songs got put on a compilation album called We Are Demo. Mood Ring was like a disco Mood Ring was very much a quirky disco type of style, which I thought was a lot of fun. But it was just Randy and I. While I was recording, met a girl named Marlene in nursing school in '95, and that was the year that Dreamland Cafe was finally released. Also, Rose's Into the Unknown was released on REX Records. Because Randy and I were still writing songs and recording them in the studio. And as always, Randy's an incredible songwriter. So they were great. So that was it for Rose and Mad at the World. And then I moved up to Boise, Idaho, April 15th of 96. So Rose and Mad at the World were done at that point. Ben went on to still be famous with his band called the Jolly Llamas. And of course Randy was doing the Mothership albums. So he was still writing and creating great music. When I got up to Boise, I got a call from one guy named Sean Hurley who had a band called Abel's Cry, and he asked me to record bass for their new album. So I went in and did, I think 3 songs. I was like 97. And then in 99, I believe, we recorded a second album called Bigger Than. Abel's Cry played several gigs, and that was a lot of fun. Good times. And then I joined a band that had a couple Christians in it, but we were a cover band. And so this was different for me to play bars. I think that was the beginning of my downfall when I joined the Casey Bryant Band. An amazingly talented singer, and I played with Steve Wickstrom on drums, Chris on guitar, I forgot his last name, I'm sorry, Marco Savage on guitar and keyboards, me on bass. And we had a great time playing bars and playing Alive After 5 and playing Thursday Thunder. We were doing those quite a bit back in 2002, 2003, 2004. But it opened up a life that I had never seen before because I had always played Christian music. So in my next video, I'm going to talk about joining the Casey Bryant Band led me down a path I probably shouldn't have chosen. I had a great time, but I shouldn't have chosen that. Cost me my second marriage. So I'm going to end right there. I know that there's so much more that I could have gone more in depth with. Reaction with Rose, with Matt the World, because there's some really good stories in each of those bands. So I love you guys, and thank you for listening to me talk for a while. And if you guys have any questions, I would love to hear from you. I love you guys very much, and I pray that each of you guys are blessed.